Hi, I'm Greg Schaefer. Welcome to the Virtual CISO Moment. Cyrus McCoy joins us today. He is a Senior Cybersecurity Manager Threat Modeling for Truist. Cyrus, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for having me.
About tripped over my tongue there for a second. Would love to hear about your history on how you got started in cyber and how you got to where you're at today. I will say that we first connected, I was very intrigued by the fact that you transitioned from the military to cyber, and I know a lot of folks could really hear or really use like some input as to some real world experience about how that went. So take it away.
Once again, thank you, Greg. And as I mentioned before, I'm a fan of your show. So my
Thank you.
humble beginning started roughly 24 years ago after I graduated from high school in 1999. So I'm aging myself right now. I enlisted into the Army as an avionics technician working on aircraft. Um, Very technical. You had to be pretty much, real good with identifying your wires, learning the AC, DC circuits, all that kind of good stuff, right? So being an analyst and having technical acumen was real important for that job, that role, especially with aviation, right? Think about safety. The highlight of my career was being stationed at good old Fort Campbell, Kentucky, when I was assigned to the 160th Special Operation Aviation Regiment.
It's right up the road from me. So, because I'm just south of Nashville. So, and that's
Yes,
over
sir.
near Clarksville.
Yes, sir. Tennessee has a special heart, a special place in my heart. So I started in my IT field, when I'm working on aircraft, because initially, my aspirations were aviation. So one day we had upgraded our aircraft, the data bus was being updated, everything was going digital, crystal glass cockpits. And they brought this big old processor in and said, hey guys, we got something new. We are no longer programming with hexadecimal bump switches. You have to learn Solaris. So like, whoa. in the meantime, I was going through my schooling and doing IT stuff, right? So I had an avionics background, but I was going to school for IT because I saw a transitioning from analog to digital, right? So we fast forward 2008. I was blessed to go to officer mechanic school. Once again, young Army, so it was good old Fort Benning, Georgia, now called Fort Moore. Latest changes. It's kind of unique in our current state, but everybody got their personal opinions about it. But with that, I was branch signal. So with my bachelor's degree in IT, master's degree in information security, I was blessed to get branch signal. Did everything from manage technical satellite terminals to data centers, working with our intelligence communities, doing the top secret classified guru stuff on the government networks. And then there was a need for cyber security in the DoD. So I was part of the initial entity to help stand up the Cyber Protection Brigade located at Fort Gordon, Georgia. About to change to Fort Eisenhower. So this little note out there. But during that time, I was a C&D manager, which is a computer network defense manager, and did everything from incident response to sensor placement plans, doing security assessments, and so on. And then got to my 20-year mark in the Army, retired as a captain. I had the opportunity to take advantage of a program called Hire Our Heroes. It's definitely a good transition program for anybody to take who's about to transition out their military service. While I was doing Hire Our Heroes, I worked at Booz Allen Hamilton, working for the CDC. It was kind of unique, getting that federal side experience. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm not really cut out to be in the government space anymore. I want to try something different, right? So while I was doing Hire Our Heroes, I took advantage of another program called 4Block. It's a program for veterans who are transitioning from the service, going to school, and it helps bridge that gap to prepare them for corporate America. So 4Block does everything from how to write a resume, how to conduct an interview, how to navigate your offers, right? Because some of those things you never experience when you're trying to get a job in corporate America. And thank God I took advantage of that program because there was a lot of challenges I was faced with, when it comes to what kind of healthcare I choose and so on, right? So got hired at SunTrust, now Truist Bank, there was a merge that happened between SunTrust and BB&T
Hmm.
right before the pandemic. And our teammates did great work during the transition or the merging of two regional banks to be one of the top 6 U.S. banks in America. So at Truist Financial Corporation, I initially started out as a manager doing vulnerability management, doing everything from infrastructure vulnerability management, application vulnerability management, and engaging with the lines of business to reduce cyber risk throughout the environment. With that, I had opportunity to grow, got promoted to where I'm a senior cybersecurity manager doing cyber threat modeling. And it's pretty cool, right? Because we think about threat modeling, what kind of threats you modeling against? In my case, it's application security in the SDLC. So you can threat model anything, but the biggest thing when you're trying to take a shift left approach, especially with recent supply chain attacks, right, against our software, we're trying to build out our application for the left side when the planning phase to the deployment phase. So throughout the whole process, we plan out your applications to the building out your applications, testing and deploying. You have security built in from the beginning to finish. I apologize, a lot of words there. And the methodology that we use that people want to learn outside, the Microsoft Stripe methodology is a methodology called PASTA, which is the process of attack, simulation, threat analysis. And that's really looking at your application or your environment from an adversary perspective, looking at attack vectors, and from there trying to pick countermeasures against those attack vectors. So that's my story today. That's where I'm at right now, and
Well,
and keep
that
going.
that that's an awesome path. I'm very impressed with all of the steps along the way, and certainly you've got, I'm sure, a wealth of information up there. And while I know Truist isn't exactly a small or mid-sized business, of course you all, I'm sure, work with small and mid-sized businesses. I think you also have a rather small baseball stadium there in Atlanta, don't you? Something like that. But I do want to ask, and I'll give you 30 seconds to think about this, what you think from your perspective with that long and distinguished history, what you think that today might be one of the more significant threats to small and mid-sized businesses. And I will give you 30 seconds to think about that. vCISO Catalyst is the ultimate community for cybersecurity specialists who believe in collaborating to strengthen the security of small to mid-sized businesses. Join the vCISO Catalyst today and be part of a community that shares your passion for cybersecurity, knowledge, and professional growth. Together, we can create a safer world for everyone. Visit our website at www.vcisocatalyst.org and start your journey with vCISO Catalyst today. All right, so I've given you actually about 34.8 seconds. So, what do you think? Is maybe one of the threats related to third-party threat management, API security, those sorts of things?
Yeah, definitely on microservices, right? 'Cause a lot of organizations have servers running in the background that they don't know about, right? What's connecting to what database? What is being pulled from those databases, and most importantly, what keys are out there? From a management standpoint. So people are talking about it. People are trying to find solutions to counter that. This is one of many things, by the way. I think the biggest issue in any organization is the people, right? People are not trained, then what they don't know, they're gonna make mistakes. So, for example, emails. It's so easy to click an email link, and we are emotionally enticed individuals, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
our adversaries are getting real crafted to learn so much about us that they might send an email saying, you know what, click this link and you'll be on the set of Transformers. Oh man, I want to be on Transformers. Click, your organization is pawned, right? So now, or website redirecting. So credential harvesting. When people put their credentials in the fake website that they think is theirs, but because one unique character in the URL has been flipped, you know, you put your credentials into your website. So
Mm-hmm.
the Bible says, has a quote about casting pearls to swine, and we so quick to cast all our personal assets out there about really identifying, what the risk is that we about to navigate into. So with that, having lack of MFA would counter that. So if MFA was implemented, then if I accidentally submit my credentials, if I get a notification from my MFA solution, hey, somebody's trying to log in multiple times. This individual did it from identity access management standpoint. And then that team can reach out to the individual and say, hey, this person credentials most likely have been compromised, change your password, retrain, keep moving again. Small business ransomware attacks, as we know, is very prominent against big and large and small. The biggest thing is what type of defense in depth you have in your inventory. And once again, are individuals trained, when it comes to ransomware attacks? How do you respond? How do you communicate to your customers that you have been compromised? How you engage public relations and so on? All that makes a difference on how you recover from a ransomware attack. And unfortunately, for small based businesses, I think roughly from the last study I read, 50% of companies pay out the ransom.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And
that's a whole philosophical argument or discussion in itself. Do you pay the ransom or do you not? It's for a small and mid-sized business, it's not quite as simple as being like the virtuous thing to say would be, well, no, don't pay because you don't want to perpetuate the demand, right?
That's correct.
But if you're a small mid-sized business, I mean, it could be, if you don't get that data back, it could actually kill your company. So it's a very nuanced topic that I think that people who say that either yes you pay or no you don't pay, they're not considering the mushy stuff in the middle where people's lives and livelihoods could really be affected.
Most definitely.
So you said before too, part of all this as far as threats go is the people. And I thought that was an interesting answer and made me think, going back now, I'm going to go back to your military experience. I didn't realize, or I think I forgot that you were avionics. I was crew chief on C-130. So we kind of shared a little bit of now I was Air Force, so we had a little bit more comfort. Our tents were air conditioned. We had tents, what I mean. But certainly within the military, I know for me, I learned some aspects of both risk management and working with people, and also following directions. In fact, I got my first, I don't know if I ever mentioned this on the podcast before, but I got my first job in IT directly because of my military experience, not because C-130s had anything to do with computer networking, but because the guy interviewing me, who was about to become my first boss in IT, who also was had been a drill instructor in the Marines, he said that if you could read a technical order, then you can read instructions on how to fix a network, a TO. You guys have them in the Army too, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So technical manuals and field manuals.
So I'm wondering, from your perspective, what's maybe like something that you took over, folks transitioning from the military. One of the issues that they have is being able to convey to the folks in the civilian world just the why what they did is so important and can help in the civilian world. How did that help you in your transition? What was one or a couple of skill sets that really helped you?
So I think the biggest skill set is having being problem solvers, right? So we was always trying to solve a problem with sometimes lack of resources. So sometimes we had to have you had to have a little ingenuity about how you attack problem sets. So problem solving was real big in the military. How you say the problem, how you say the problem statement, come up with courses of action and take the best course of action. If it didn't work, you go back to the drawing board and you do it again. So whenever I'm faced with problems in my current role, I always have a problem statement. What we trying to solve for? Who are the people we need to engage? Who are stakeholders that need to be at the table to make decisions, right? And then you tee it up, and then you bring in the right people, whether it be a working group, discuss the problem set, have courses of actions, and you take action. So making decisions is the biggest thing. And I have seen it over and over again. Um, where I work at, where my wife work at, Code, it's all about making a decision and acting on it. I recall going through Officer Candidate School, and it had this crazy song. What you gonna do, PL? What you gonna do, PL? So,
You want to sing it? No, I'm only kidding.
good. And PL is platoon leader, right? So the biggest
Yeah.
thing is if you don't make a decision, people are going to die. Thank
Yeah.
God where we work at today, I don't have to worry about calling an air medevac or making a decision that might take somebody's life, right? Um, in regards to mission success, it's all about this collaborating, putting the problem statement out there, and solving problems.
I think I think you really hit the nail on the head with regards to one significant differentiator for those transitioning with the problem solving aspect. And the reason why I say that is that in corporate America, as I'm sure that you found, is there's a lot of people who are very good at pointing out things that are wrong. A lot of people. Very few of those are like, well, okay, what's an idea on how to solve it? Well, I don't know. It's not my job. I mean, the it's not my job attitude really doesn't exist in the military. It's like you are all working together to try to solve a problem.
That's correct.
So I think that that's a huge differentiator that I think some folks might be able to take away from here. And I would also almost submit that maybe that's one of the significant threats in small and mid-sized businesses is that sometimes they're so small that they're so focused on solving their business problem that they don't focus on solving cybersecurity problems. They just want it to be, tell me I'm secure, and then I'm done.
Right. And with that, it's a balancing act, right? So from a security perspective, how much security do I need? Or what's the true requirements of what I'm trying to secure from a triad aspect, from confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So from a client-facing organization, my public relations with my customer is big. So I want to make sure that any type of transactions that's being conducted with my customers, their data is protected.
Right.
And then when it comes to the availability from a business side of the house, if I have online business, I want to make sure that that site is up. So transactions is constantly flowing. Because if it's not out to a DDoS attack or accidental administrator not doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
You're losing money. So it's definitely a balancing act between how much layer of security apply to what's my operational objectives and just making sure they mirror and merge together.
Yeah, one of my favorite, I haven't really seen this too often over the last few years, but one of my favorite ways to diagram that out to show folks, you probably know where I'm going with this, but you have like an X and Y graph where it's you basically have two lines. One is going to be security, and then one is accessibility. And as you increase accessibility, you decrease security. And where those two lines intersect is ideally where your security should be. Are you completely secure? No. Do you have complete access? No. But you're trying to find the best of both worlds there.
Right.
So, well, you've certainly had a lot of experience both in cyber and the military. I'm sure that both have introduced some times of stress, and particularly like if you are, of course, literally dealing with decisions that are life or death affecting, that stress can sometimes be overwhelming. A lot of times we tend to take on too much stress ourselves, and we don't necessarily. Unfortunately, I think one of the commonalities between cybersecurity as an industry and the military, at least from my experience, is that a lot of times people maybe disproportionately turn to like alcohol, for example, to decompress, which is not the healthiest thing to do. And I've been open about the fact that I don't never really had an alcoholic problem, but I certainly had an alcohol crutch problem. Right. But now I go for healthier things. I will be doing a run later today, and I put it in air quotes because my run right now is more like an old man shuffle. But hey, I did a 10K event this past week, and I'm like, I came in ahead of this old guy who I found out later he was 30 years older than me. So I'm like, I want to be that guy. But the point being is that it's important to have some way to decompress. It doesn't have to be necessarily physically working out or whatever. But what's one or a couple of things that you do to get away from the stress of cyber?
I'm glad you brought that up, Greg. So I lost a couple of friends to suicide, and
I'm sorry.
yeah, and it really hurt me because this guy was on top of the world. He had everything going for him. He was like 2 weeks from retirement, had his own company, and most importantly, had a family and a lot of friends in the community that he supported. So it has ripple effects when one take that route. So with that being said, in today's age with our kids, my daughter, she's a junior in high school. She started a mental, group for mental health awareness for high school, an actual club. She creating podcast videos about the awareness and all that kind of good stuff.
Great.
So one thing we need to do is be more open about, the issue at hand. You can't look at it as a pink elephant. To get across the problems, we need to seek outside help. Whether it be professional from a counselor or from, religious help from, somebody in your church, spiritual counseling, and so on. But what I do outside those two vectors, I play golf, right?
See, now if I tried to play golf, I definitely would have to invoke God out there on the fairway. So I'm horrible.
So I'm glad you said that, because it might do two things to you. You might feel great because you hit that, that chip shot, or you got that good drive, or you know what, you five putting a 5-foot putter, and like, come on guys, what's going on, right? That might add more stress. But for me, just being out there on the greens, being out there, just hearing the wind hit the trees, smelling the dew from the grass in the morning time, it's very therapeutic for me. And I also like to go in my yard. We built a new house out here in Oxford, Georgia, and I planted zoysia grass. It's a beautiful grass, right?
Yeah.
My wife said, you're always cutting the grass. Well, I said it's therapeutic for me. I don't want to see
yeah.
more.
I used to bush hog, and I used to love bush hogging. It's very therapeutic being out there in nature.
It's therapeutic.
Yeah.
So for me, those are two healthy things, that I do is play golf, do yard work, go fishing. Just take away from the crazy thing that we call life. Being so connected to these phones would drive us crazy, right?
Oh,
So,
I know, and I'm in the process of transitioning from one phone to the other, and even that, it doesn't go 100%, and there's always some stress there. You got to relog in, you got to redo your multi-factor and all that. But that's a pretty good segue, because my last question before you answer it, I have a comment too. But my last question is, what kind of future plans you have? But I'll offer a suggestion first, though. I think that maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea if you think about maybe as a retirement career being a groundskeeper on a golf course. You'd be therapeutic all the time, It's like, now, what do you have? What's something that you'd like to share with us that you have planned or future plans?
When I first exited the military, I did have aspirations to have my own business, be an entrepreneur. So probably branch out and do something in that space. It might be cyber related, it might be real estate related, who knows. Right now, for my corporate track, I definitely want to get up to become maybe a VP of security, a CISO somewhere. So, and it's not maybe, I am.
So you want more stress, basically, is what you want.
Just a little bit. Pico.
No,
So,
it's being a CISO can be a very fulfilling career, and being an entrepreneur can be very fulfilling as well too. And certainly, I transitioned from one to the next. So, I'm obviously I'm always here if you got any questions that I could help with.
I greatly appreciate it, Greg.
Well, Cyrus, it's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I'm glad we had an opportunity to chat about this morning. I really appreciate you taking the time and appreciate your story and appreciate your service both to the country and to cybersecurity.
Thank you for your service too, Greg.
All
Take
right,
care.
everybody. I'm not going to try that. Stay secure.